Hopefully everyone's doing okay today on Wednesday here. Uh, well, we it was actually a bit worse than what we were fearing today. So if you saw my morning video, then you knew what had happened if you had read the description. The storm strengthened from a mid grade Category 4 up to almost and quite possibly even a Category 5 before making landfall here. I'm thinking the storm made landfall maybe just to the north of Cape Coral, but things don't seem to be looking too good over here right now. A lot of damage seems to have been done. I've seen quite a few images of intense storm surge. I'm hearing the power is out in a lot of places. We're sitting at apparently right now we're sitting at about 1.9 million outages in Florida right now. And this storm is still kicking, still very intense. We're sitting at a Category 2 with 105-mile-per-hour winds right now. And this is the special advisory that was issued at 9 p.m. Storms at 965 millibars, and this is not going to dissipate slowly. This is a big storm as well, so you can literally, if you look at it on this satellite image here, you can see that it's practically covering the entire state, almost the entire peninsula of Florida alone, which is unbelievable. But this, as you can see from the track here, this is expected to go through Orlando. The center of circulation is expected to go through Orlando, make a close pass, if not directly going over Daytona Beach, and then heading back out in open waters. We'll start to take a look at what the path may do beyond that point. The path of the storm may be beyond that point. But maybe through the night, we're looking more toward, maybe through the night and through the afternoon tomorrow, we'll be looking at maybe Daytona Beach being impacted. And then Friday, this is when this moves up towards South Carolina and Georgia. So be prepared for some additional impacts from this storm. I don't know if this necessarily will re-strengthen over these waters. I'm not super optimistic about that. I think if anything it may maintain itself a little bit more. But this is still a high level tropical storm that could be heading your way in the Atlantic coast of Georgia and parts of South Carolina. So basically, I'm ringing the alarm at this point for areas like Brunswick, Savannah, and then a little further inland, we even have areas like Augusta included in this as well. And then, of course, with South Carolina, I'm looking at Charleston, Columbia, Florence. I'm not ruling you out of this either, Myrtle Beach, especially North Myrtle Beach. But you guys aren't ruled out of this yet either. And then also we have Charlotte as well, North Carolina, maybe even Greensboro and Asheville. We're gonna have to watch you as well. There's still plenty of impacts that the storm has to offer here. I will say that the tornado threat so far has been pretty notable, and depending on how it interacts with this trough within the next couple of days as it comes back onto land, could determine a lot. And which side of the cone this storm tends to lean on towards more. Basically, for right now, from what I've been seeing in previous runs leading up to its landfall, we've been seeing a little bit more favoritism towards the right side until the very last minute. Will this trend continue? Will this recent trend of pushing more towards the west continue? That's hard for me to say. But we'll see what happens here, of course. And we're just going to quickly go over all of that here. But yeah, you know anybody in Florida, you won't really be able to check on them, but just keep them in your thoughts and your prayers, because this is a very nasty storm, and it's one that we will definitely remember. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few parameters here. I'm going to start out by looking at the tropical storm force wind arrival time, especially for areas that are going to be probably in line for the second landfall. So we look towards about maybe in between mid Thursday morning, early Thursday morning for parts of coastal Georgia to be impacted by tropical storm force winds, and then by Thursday into Thursday afternoon, they'll be reaching South Carolina. And then potentially on Friday, they will be making their way into North Carolina as well. As the storm falls apart while going over land, its impacts are going to spread out further and further. And even if you're not in this area, you will experience additional wind gusts far outside of this area. They may not be tropical storm force, but you will feel a difference. And this goes up the entire Atlantic seaboard here, the whole eastern seaboard. But this is an area that we're putting a little bit of extra emphasis on. So beware of that. And now we'll go ahead and take a look at the tornado potential over the next several days. Ian's been a pretty prolific tornado producer in my opinion. So I don't see why that wouldn't continue. This trough may play a part in maybe limiting it, but it's hard to say to what extent, or it could very well enhance it. That's still one of the many unknowns that we have with this storm track. So here's our day one outlook. Still chances of tornadoes as the storm moves further and further inland. Orlando towards Jackson, just to the south of Jacksonville. That's where our greatest threat lies right now. Okay, so we'll go to day two next. And I expect this area to be pushed a little further north, but a little bit smaller as well. We see Jacksonville again, but of course, like I said, the area is going to be smaller as the storm starts to move back out into the ocean. Our main threat is going to be tornadoes. Of course, there is an isolated severe thunderstorm wind gust that's not associated with a tropical storm that could come into play as well, but I expect those to also be few and far in between. Day three, right now it's only a marginal risk, but I do see potential for this to be upgraded and maybe pushed a little bit further inland. But I would say maybe towards Columbia. I'll even be watching you guys ahead of time. I won't say Raleigh just yet. I think you guys may be just outside of it right now. But between Friday and Sunday, there will be a chance for you guys to see an increased tornado threat. In the days after this, the storm gets kind of wacky as far as like trying to predict where it's gonna go. One thing I can tell you right now is that we do have a fair number of tropical storm warnings here. We still have a few hurricane warnings as well, which just shows how strong the storm was at landfall and how long it's going to take for this thing to fall apart here. Like over towards Orlando, Melbourne, you guys are definitely under hurricane warning, and rightfully so, with a storm that has 105 mile an hour winds. No surprise there. In fact, at the 8 o'clock advisory here, this storm was still technically a major hurricane. And this is hours after making landfall, which is honestly incredible. Even the Bahamas are getting tropical storm warnings here, which is unbelievable. But we can clearly see here that we do have tropical storm warnings up the Atlantic coast here for Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina as well, and a tropical storm watch that partially or maybe just south of the Cape Hatteras area. But you can see right now this is our cone of uncertainty again. We're kind of favoring a impact towards maybe the Georgia-South Carolina line on the coast. Or at least that's what the 8 o'clock advisory has for us. The real reason we're on here, though, is to go look at the spaghetti models, which after it comes back on land a second time, it's go figure, honestly, at this point. So, of course, with all our spaghetti models for intensity, this storm is going to weaken rather rapidly over time, of course, due to its land interaction. There's no real path with with the exception of maybe one or two models here that has it maybe regaining hurricane strength if it were to lose it, which I'm expecting honestly. But for the most part, if once it loses its hurricane strength, I don't think it comes back, and all these models indicate that. But this is our most recent model tracks, and this is where things get a little bit messy again. Because okay, we can see clearly that this makes a move, and it's kind of leaning towards maybe a South Carolina second land, towards South Carolina for a second landfall. But then once it does that, there's quite a few models dancing around here. We have one that takes a loop through South Carolina and throws it back out to sea. There's one model that, what is that? There's one model here that makes this storm do a big bend and pushes it back towards the panhandle of Florida, as if to say, I'm not finished with you yet. But then there's several others that have it go back into Georgia, which would be very bad for me and my work. But and we have a few that take it all the way through the mid-Atlantic here and then kick it out to sea. And it does a loop over South Carolina, goes out to sea. It's just a bunch of different stuff here. It's a mess. So we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on this over the next, well, pretty much through the rest of the week. And maybe even into the weekend and beyond that. But still plenty going on. This storm has plenty more that it can do to a lot of other people. And I'm going to try to do everything I can to help get the warning out and keep people safe as best as I can. So let's go ahead and finally look at the models. Let's see what the GFS and the Euro have to say as far as where this goes next. So this is the GFS here. Also, as I go forward with this, note the Euro is at 18Z, only goes to 90 hours out, versus the GFS, which goes always to 384, no matter which time of day it comes out. So this looks like it's favoring a South Carolina landfall, and then there's no telling what this does. It looks like it gets kicked out. It looks like the GFS operational gets it kicked out to sea. And then there's probably some leftover energy that's going to be associated with a cold front. And whoa, hold on a minute. Wow. That snowstorm gets relatively... Oh, that's interesting. I'll keep that in note for a future video there, but some very interesting stuff I'm seeing there. I figured I'd just go ahead and look through it because I literally, in the time of just keeping track of Ian, I haven't really had a chance to look at too much else. I mean, I know that there is another tropical depression out there in the Atlantic, Tropical Depression 10. There is a decent likelihood that it becomes Julia, but it won't have any impacts to land from the looks of it. In fact, it's stalled out right now, so considering what's going on here, I don't see a point in talking about it right now. I'm mainly just concerned about what Ian is doing because that's what's affecting people. That being said, here's the Euro. Wait, did I click the... No, I didn't click the Euro. Sorry, guys. Well, I didn't click the Euro, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And again, also it looks like a South Carolina landfall, and then after that, see all sorts of craziness going on with this. Euro kind of has this lingering more than the GFS does so far as in regards to what it does after it goes through South Carolina. It looks like it almost does a little kink here, goes through North Carolina, and then starts to look like it's going to go back to sea. So a little bit more uncertainty to go with this storm here, as if we needed more of that. But we'll just be here and we'll do the best we can to keep up with it. I'll do what I can to make a video in the morning again. Again, keep the people of Florida in your thoughts and prayers tonight, over the coming days, because this has been a historic storm and we're not even done with it yet. So yeah, remember that name, Hurricane Ian, because that's going to be one that I'm pretty sure is going to be retired. But enough rambling. It's enough for this video tonight. Sorry it came in a little bit later than expected, but that's how things happen sometimes with me. But if you did like the video, leave me a like, drop me a comment. Sub to the channel, share the channel. We're gonna stay on top of things as best as we can all the time here. And as long as you guys want me here, I'll stay. But this has been Tyre Metalhead with Weatherman, and we're signing off for tonight.